Okay. A living podcast, upcycled from the mind of Dave Campbell, inspired by Natasha Bedingfield. The next chapter, like the blank page, is still unwritten. Open your window and let the sunshine in, because today is when your book begins and people are already listening in from Italia, India, and China to amplify their acoustic and linguistic career and hear these people talking about sentence construction, storyline, and how in writing hearts and minds align.
Excellent. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. I have a guest with me today, my first guest from this country. I am so excited to have our guest today with us. He's an author. He is going to be sharing about his books. He also writes poems, which we'll talk about in a moment. But Christoph is with us today. Christoph, welcome to the podcast. I am honored to have you with me today.
Hi, Dave. Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward. And since I'm from Germany, I also want to express a hello to the German audience.
Excellent.
Also herzlich willkommen an alle Zuhörerinnen und Zuhörer aus Deutschland. Ja, ich wünsche euch viel Spaß. Und now we transition back to English.
I love it. I love it. Where are you in Germany?
Right now I'm in Bavaria, which is the southern part.
What is if someone is going to make a trip to Germany, Christoph, where should they, what's a must see, must do thing in Germany? Where would you suggest?
Well, for many people it's Berlin. It's this like young, hip party scene. People feel really free. Whatever you're into, there will be a scene for it. World-class scene. But then also the south, Bavaria, it has this castle that was the inspiration for the Disney castle.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah.
So that's what people do. The mountains are very beautiful. So you can go from north to south.
Okay, so I live in Canada, so we don't really have a good answer to this question. Our food choices are very very nondescript. They're just whatever. But in Germany, what's your favorite German food that can only be found there that you guys do the best? Come on, there's got to be a good food. You're just like, oh, you got to try this.
Well, I mean, so I've transitioned away a bit from meat. Before that, we had this like white sausage in Bavaria. It's called Weißwurst. It's quite typical. Apart from that, we have nice sweets that we share, I guess, with Austria.
Okay,
so it's this like hearty kitchen. If you want your belly, if you want to fill your belly with sweet, nice stuff, you can go for that.
Oh, see, that's the kind of stuff I'd love to hear, right? Because I can go on the internet and Google stuff, but I'd rather talk to somebody and get your suggestions. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, so for people from Bavaria, it's basically beer. Like so there's the saying that beer here counts as like a basic constitution of your food, you know?
It's like a food group, yes.
Yeah, but it's like something you eat.
Yeah, well, we have Canadian beer, and that's pretty popular here too. But I don't know if we call it a food group, but yeah, that's great. I love it. It's amazing. So, Christoph, you're an author. How long have you been writing for?
Yeah, it was this day. I remember when I moved to the city to take up my studies in physiotherapy. Back then, I just got this little notebook. I don't know what gave me the idea to get it, but this was like 10 11 years ago, beginning of my 20s. Yeah, and that had me taking like many notes from the books I was reading. And then I also started to dabble a little bit with poetry.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2015-ish, when I moved to Berlin, I had a friend living with me, and we were really living together in the same room. He had no place, so he was crashing at my place like for some weeks and months. And he was writing like massive book. So this was my first main inspiration. I was like, I want to write a book. No matter what, I just also want to write a book, period.
That's great. So you wrote, is that when you wrote your first book then? Is that the one that came out in March?
No.
Okay.
So this was 2015. 2018, I started writing my novel, which came out this year.
Okay.
So it took me 4 years. And non-fiction, it was 2000, like end of 2019. Published it 2020 in German and 2021 in English.
Okay. So when you're writing as a German author, was it difficult to write the English version of the book as well, or was that pretty easy for you?
Yeah, definitely I had to look things up. And so for me, it was sometimes I was writing and then I would get this word into my mind that I did not really know what it meant, just in a broader sense. And then I would look it up and often was like, yeah, that's the perfect word. So there was this like interesting process going on while writing in English as a German.
Did you have anybody working with you as you were writing?
Afterwards, I had an editor.
Editor could help you.
Yeah, I would not have felt comfortable publishing it without an editor because there's still like some stilted grammatical expressions. And so, yeah, I'm very grateful to have an editor. It really, it's really amazing for the writing process. And if you're a listening author and you can get an editor or someone who engages with your work in a serious way, totally go for it. I think it's a game changer.
What was your process in finding a good editor?
So basically, there were these guys whose YouTube channel I was following. They were into teaching men how to date women.
Yeah.
So I was following this channel. I really liked the approach because it was also into meditation and self-awareness and not any pickup lines. So it's a really honest approach. And then one of these guys, he made book roasts. So he talked about this other like Fight Club and other books, but from a literary perspective. And then he also slipped like, I'm also into like, I was a theater teacher and whatever. So I just took, how do you say, like a wide shot or whatever. And I shot him an email and asked him if he would be interested. And he was interested. And I was like jumping through my room and like crazy excited that it really, like one of my inspirations, that he would also be super stoked to take up this project with me.
It doesn't hurt to ask, right? To reach out and ask the question and see what happens. And I'm glad you did. I'm glad you found somebody that you could work with and could support you. That's excellent.
Yeah. And that's the thing always, like when you start for going something that really excites you, then also you will have some magical connections and funny coincidences and whatever along the way. I think that's just how it works.
Was it difficult to write the book? Did you have a point in time when the process of writing stalled or got difficult for you?
Often for me, it's a bit quote unquote frustrating in the final months because you think it's almost finished. But then you have to go over it like so many times because you're looking for this like tiny typos, and then you also send it to the interior designer, and then they do something, but maybe they do like a mistake. So when you're self-publishing, you're the final authority, which is super exciting, but it also puts like, at least for me, it puts like huge responsibility, because then it goes to print and then it's done.
Yeah.
So these are really kind of like stressful moments, because you want to get it out finally, and then it takes longer and longer and some more. So for this book, for the imagination book, with the other one, the novel that took 4 years, there were times when I didn't look at it at all. And then there were also times when I thought like art would never happen.
Mm-hmm.
So there were many different relations to this book.
Okay, so let's talk about the nonfiction book first. Would you share the title of the book with our audience, and then let us know a little bit about that as well?
Yeah. So the title is Imagination, the Secret Nobody Talks About. And it's basically, so I discovered this guy 2015 also, who has this whole philosophy about the imagination and how it's the most important power on the planet, because it shapes, like it creates everything around us. Like people with a turned on imagination have created, and every great scientist kind of said, like Edison said, for example, like to invent, you just need a huge pile of junk and a strong imagination.
Yes, yeah.
So it leaves its traces throughout history. And the book really wants to show people like how imagination shows up in our history, but also the power of the mind. What do we already know about it? Like the placebo effect, the nocebo effect, like how powerful that actually is. And that's scientifically proven. And then the main angle is, so if you're living a life and you're not 100% happy, or you think there could be more, there's this idea in our culture, like find a purpose, find a passion, and let yourself be dragged along by that. But sometimes people have like really big struggle in finding their purpose or passion.
Yeah.
So the book also talks about, that when you increase your imagination, so you suddenly have this like bigger space, and in this bigger space, new ideas and inspirations come. So you can easier find your purpose or passion. But it also tells you you don't have to get married to one purpose or passion, because then people like invest time and energy into one thing, but maybe it has run its course, and then instead of lifting you up, it's dragging you down. So the book also gives you this wider perspective, like what could be pitfalls on your path of pursuing your passion.
Okay. So who is the book written for? Do you have an audience in mind when you were writing?
Yeah, basically people who are stuck in their jobs, who want to do something new. Artists that want to reinvent themselves. I got really good feedback on that. Basically also people who are in a relationship and who have come maybe to an end point in that. Because also for a relationship, it's really important that you have two strong individuals who have strong passions, purposes, dreams, whatever, how you want to call it, that they follow. Because if not, they're only like revolving around each other. But so it also makes you stronger if you're in a relationship, because you also get independently happy.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So you mentioned some of the responses from the book. What are you hearing from readers? What are they saying about the book?
So this one artist, she really got a new because she wanted to quit doing art as like a profession, and that really like rekindled her passion for doing art, and that art is super important. And another friend, she's a doctor, so she works also with clients in psychotherapy. And even there, you can use the imagination. She told me, like, okay, how can you imagine like a safe space for yourself, or like a shield around you, like a boundary. Everyone talks about boundaries these days. If you turn your imagination up, you can also imagine like a stronger or different boundary for yourself that then also has real life implications.
Excellent. It's amazing. So this book you said came out in March of 2019. Was that correct?
Last year.
Last year. Oh, 2020. Okay, yeah. That's great. So tell me a little bit about your fictional work now as well. You've written another book besides this one. That's great. Tell me about this one as well.
Yeah. So this book is kind of the testament to my own journey with imagination and becoming more creative and turning myself into an artist, because now I call myself a writer. And so if people want to see if this whole imagination work is any good, they can read the novel and see if it helped me. So this book is about a guy's hero's journey in becoming better with women, dating, relating his sexuality. And it takes place mainly in a lucid dreaming world, which means you're dreaming, but you realize you're dreaming.
Yeah.
And the world is called the sexosphere, and there are many different teachers in it that help him to progress on his path towards greater freedom with himself and the world of dating. And yeah, it has this, I would say, because it has this dreaming element, so it has this like magical fiction element, and it goes between dream and reality, and it goes back and forth.
So I find that interesting that you're writing in two different areas. Usually most of the people that I speak to as authors, they're either just nonfiction or fiction. They pick one lane and they just kind of stay in that lane. They do multiple ways of writing. So these are two completely different ways to write as an author. Right.
Yeah. I'm really interested in different styles, actually, because it also can help you to expand your writing. And I was also recently, because when you're publishing on your own, you also have to get a bit into marketing. So I was studying copywriting, which who doesn't know the term is if you, for example, you turn a book around and you read the blurb on the back side of the book. So this is designed to entice you to open the book and get more involved with it. And then also when you look at the chapter titles, more for a nonfiction book, they can also be designed to entice you to get curious about the book, to stimulate something in you. And if someone writes you an email and they want you to check out their program or whatever, this is copywriting. And this is very interesting as well, because they also talk about how you can write that the reader's eye doesn't get too stressed. So you have like spacing, you work with brackets. Is it brackets?
Yep.
You kind of sometimes break the fourth wall and you say like, okay, I know what you're thinking. And here, this is this. Or like, keep on reading. Like, don't close the book right now. So this also helped me just to open my mind and feel more free, even because it's kind of cheeky also how they write sometimes.
It's almost kind of like when you watch a trailer for a movie, when they're advertising a new movie and you have the little way to hook you into watching the movie, and they want to in a world, and you're like, oh, yeah, I want to, what's this about? Right. It's almost like that kind of, I'm curious. I want to know what this book is about. I like that.
Exactly. It's an art form. I have so much respect for it.
Yeah.
So these are just many different. So now something comes to mind. When I was beginning of my 20s, I was only interested in nonfiction and personal development and philosophy. And I thought I only want this, like pure knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I started to read more fiction and the classics. And then I realized, like, wow, these guys are amazing. Like, some of them have gone so far out, and they impart such emotion and energy and fun and still also wisdom to you. So I've been as a reader, I've been at home in both worlds.
That's interesting. So as an author, you really advise you to not only write, but to also consume and read. That's important as well.
A lot. Because you see so much, like, how other people do it. And for me, I think it was really this freedom that you can go really, like, far out. And some people will love it. The more free you feel, the less of a fuck that you give.
Yeah.
People appreciate it. And so this helps to really open your mind.
So on top of writing in these two genres, you also write poems.
Yeah, I like to write poems, and sometimes it feels like so I think I started when I was hanging out with friends in the evening and someone said something, and then I catch this phrase, and then I catch another phrase, and I catch kind of like the vibe of the place. And then, out of this, like, a story comes. And this I really like. And the people who are with me on these occasions, like, they really feel, like, portrayed, and they're like, have been turned into or become a part of a piece of art. So people really like this. And then I was in this museum in San Francisco, and I was doing the same. So this is like a house. People also, like, live there. There are parties. It's not only like a museum. It's like something in between.
Yeah.
And then I read one of my poems to the founder of the museum, and he was like, wow, it's amazing, like, what you do here. It's a kind of art, and if you would live here, I would send you to all of these events for you then to, like, portray them with your words and everything. And since then, I also started to use the poems as kind of a business device to get into touch with certain people, to further relationships, just as a present, like what I did for us today, just to make something special and something that stands out a little bit.
So that's a great segue, Christoph. You wrote something for our podcast and for our time together. I'm honored I'm thrilled that you would do this, first of all. But I would love to hear this. I've been waiting. We talked before we record that you had this, and I've been, like, waiting to cue this up. I'm so excited to hear this. Do you mind sharing this now?
No, I will read it from my notebook, so I can't perform it freely.
Okay.
And I want the audience to know that you had the idea that I write one, and let's see what came out of it.
I'm excited. Thank you.
Okay. A living podcast, upcycled from the mind of Dave Campbell, inspired by Natasha Bedingfield. The next chapter, like the blank page, is still unwritten. Open your window and let the sunshine in, because today is when your book begins, and people are already listening in from Italia, India, and China to amplify their acoustic and linguistic career. And here, these people talking about sentence construction, storyline, and how in writing hearts and minds align. That's it.
That's amazing, Christoph. Thank you so much for doing that. Yeah, you captured that. It's so inspiring to hear somebody write, and then to write something for us. That's going to be like, I'm going to have to print that out and put that on my wall. So it reminds me every day of our conversation, but your skill and your talent and your ability, your willingness to do that for me. That's very kind of you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it when, because when we had our pre-chat like last week, and I'm just hearing what you're mentioning to me. So you're giving me all the material by your being and by your vision, and I'm then just writing it down, basically.
It's amazing. So, Christoph, what is the best way for people to connect with you? We're going to be ending up in a few minutes here. What is the best way for people to contact you if they want to speak to you or they want a poem? What is the best way that people can reach out to you?
One would be Instagram.
Okay.
Which is my name with an underscore.
Okay.
So Christoph _Weigert. Or via email, Christoph@jinn, JINN, -imagio, IMAGIO.de. But you can put it in the show notes. I guess.
I'll put all the information in. Yeah, for sure.
I'll just give it to you. And that's it. Yeah.
That's great. So what would be, before we close off, Christoph, what would be your advice for new authors thinking about writing? What would you suggest to them today?
So when you're writing, like, don't let yourself get stuck. So you're just writing, and maybe then people fall into this like, how can I make the scene more beautiful or whatever? Just skip this and continue where you want to continue and do it again. Like, don't get hung up on details and like waste 2 hours on like a detail, because when you later get back to it in editing, there will always be new ideas and you will find the details, and so don't get hung up on this. And reading out loud is also really important. And you can write about yourself like an author would write about you in a novel.
Okay. Yep.
Which I found really nice because it connects you to yourself in a more interesting way, and also shows you the beautiful aspects of yourself.
Excellent. That's really great. Christoph, can you say goodbye to our listeners in German as well?
Yes.
I love that.
So nochmal danke an alle Zuhörer und Zuhörerinnen. Ich hoffe, es hat euch gefallen, und wir freuen uns auch, wenn ihr wieder einschaltet und auch noch euren Freunden in Deutschland von diesem wunderschönen Podcast erzählt. Genau. Bis dann. Dankeschön.
Awesome. Christoph, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. And I'm really looking forward to, again, posting that poem you wrote for me and sharing that out with the world as well. Thank you so much for creating that. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Really, time flew by.
Very quickly, right? Yeah, very good. I really appreciate your time today. It was awesome.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Hey guys, thank you for listening to the podcast. Jump over to livingthenextchapter.com, our website, and you will see a spot where you can leave a voice message. We'd love to hear your feedback. We're trying to make it as easy as possible to hear from you. So if you want your voice on this podcast, yes, that's possible. Go to livingthenextchapter.com. Click the little microphone icon, leave a voice message, and we'll insert your message into the podcast. Tell us where you're listening from. Tell us your favorite guest. Maybe there's a guest we should have on the podcast. Maybe you should be our next guest. Leave us a message at livingthenextchapter.com. Again, thank you so much for listening. Please share this podcast episode with one person. That's all we're asking. Meet you over there at livingthenextchapter.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. Love to hear from you. Till the next episode. It's coming up right away. Be sure you hit that subscribe button. Thank you for being part of Living the Next Chapter. Thank you for supporting our guests. Have a great day.